Just to go over what we covered in class for our first week here, what we did is opened up Photoshop and created a new file. We made sure that this file was in pixels and it was 8 by 8 inches with 72 pixels per inch resolution, RGB color mode. We hit create and we noticed how small it was right away. By default, we were in the essential workspace, so workspace essential, and what I'm doing is resetting it so it's back to where we were. We learned the command plus was a way of zooming in, and command minus was zooming out. So command plus, command minus. We also learned that if we were zoomed out quite a bit, command 0 pops it into full screen here. We were on the Move tool by default. You can kind of learn a little bit by just hovering over these tools. And we just had a black background because that's how we started. If yours is a white background, when you created the new document, you just changed that from white to black. That'll make it a black background, but it doesn't really matter. If this is a white background like this, we can still work on it with no problems. We worked with the brush tool, B for brush, but we changed it from brush to pencil by clicking and holding on that tool. And then what we did was just started drawing on one of our layers, the background layer. And in this case, I'm drawing with black. I can draw, instead of drawing with black like this, I can draw with white by just hitting the X key, and that swaps out the brush from the foreground color from the background color. Clicking on the foreground color allows us to choose a different color if we want. So now I'm drawing in red, as you can kind of see here. But we can only draw in two colors. So if you're drawing in red, then the other color, the background color, should be black. And so that's what I'm drawing here. So hitting the X button, again, switches between colors. So if we start with this background as our first frame, we can click the little plus button, and that'll create a brand new frame on top of our first frame, and we can turn the eyeball off so that now we're only seeing this first frame. So if I want to draw with red, I have that in the foreground, and then I just start drawing with red like this, and then hit the X button to draw in black, and then I just can continue drawing it with black. Now sometimes you just want to take that frame and duplicate it, so Command J, I'll jump that frame from layer 1 to the next layer. So in essence, it duplicated it. So now we don't have to do too much work. We can just continue drawing. We don't have to fill in everything because you can kind of see that it just duplicated that. And then I can draw in black and white just like this. Right? If I command jump that again, I can now keep drawing here. I'm just filling up some frames here. Command J. So, and then I can draw that, and then Command J, and then open that like up. So now I have these frames, and I would love to see how this animation looks so far. So what I want you to do is go to the Windows workspace, or Windows, and go to the timeline and turn that on, because at this point we don't have a timeline. By default, you might see Create Video Timeline. So what we want to do is change that to create frame animation, and then click once, and that will create one single frame of whatever you've selected here. What we will do is go here on this area and just make sure that you have the looping turned on. If it's not on by default, you can actually turn it on right here. This is forever. That means loop forever, right? And what I want you to do is make frames from layers, and what that will do is we'll take all your layers and sequence them, and so if you hit the play button, this is what the animation looks like. To change the timing of the animation, to see how that's going to look on your Arduino, you select all of them by selecting the first, holding the shift key down, selecting the last, and then changing the time, and that will change it for everything, and you'll notice that's much slower. If you want to keep working on this animation, my suggestion would be just to delete the animation so that it's not distracting you, and then just keep working on your animation layers here, so that because otherwise things get confusing. And I'll show you why in a second. Let me just jump this one more time and make this animation, and then Command J, let's make a couple more frames. And now we're going to see the new animation by just going here, make frames from layers, hit the space bar. It's a little fast, hold the shift key, select all, change all the timing, and you can kind of see here's our animation. Now the reason we don't want to just leave this here is because, say for instance, if you notice that if I click on frame 2, right here frame 2 or layer number 2 from the bottom is selected. Layer 3, layer 3, layer 4, layer 4. If I need to make a change to this animation for this layer, for instance, I want to fix this, you can do that just by going to this layer while this is selected and actually doing a change. And you'll notice that if you do that and then jump away from that, that gets updated. Do you see that? So by selecting layer 5, I go to layer, the 5th layer from the bottom here, and then I make a change, right? And then that layer will then get updated as soon as I click away from it. So you can kind of see that. So, but this gets confusing because if you accidentally you turn 3 or 4 things on, notice that this layer now changes to seeing this thing. So again, if you feel like this is just not working for you, delete the animation. Make sure that by option clicking through the animation that everything looks pretty good, and then at that point go ahead and make frames from layers and change the timing. When you're ready to export this, if you're happy with what you've got and this is what you'd like to export, before you do that, go to File, Save, and just save this on your computer as the original animation, and put it on the desktop, and it'll save as a Photoshop file, right? And then what you need to do in order to make this into an animated GIF is go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. What we did in the past was we turned off the transparency. That turned off one of the pixels. We changed the image size so we could see it to 800, and we chose Quality Nearest Neighbor. And you'll notice when we do that, everything is nice and sharp. If we had chosen another type of quality, notice how blurry this looks. This is not useful for us. So we want Nearest Neighbor to give us our nice sharp pixel look. We have the looping set to forever, right? And then we went ahead and hit save. I think that's all we did. We saved it as originalanimation.gif on a desktop, which is where I'm saving it now. You can save it wherever you feel like you can find it. And then to be sure that you've actually done everything correctly, all you have to do is hit the space bar, and if the actual animation plays when you hit the space bar, that means it is an animated GIF file, right? So that is what you will turn in as one of the 2 animated GIFs that you need to turn in. Hopefully that helps, and if you have questions, again, just send them my way and I will help you.